Hello everyone, welcome to the Model Train Technology January 2022 newsletter. This is an experiment. We have been writing the newsletter, pasting pictures, and we'll continue to do that. But this time we're going to capture all of that information on a video. So you can sit back and sip coffee or something stronger and listen and watch the entire newsletter. I suspect that there might be a bit more content in the video simply because we can show more things moving around, and I'm ad-libbing most of the time, so I might throw a few bits in there. But maybe you'll listen and maybe you'll read and then listen and watch the video as well. Down below in the text part of the YouTube box where the links are, you'll also find this time references to the timestamp in the video, this video, where each of the subjects is covered. So what I'm going to do, this introduction sort of sets the stage, but then I accumulated several videos and stitched them together. So you can fast forward to something that you're interested in and skip the stuff that you're not interested in. So with that, let's talk about the 7 things that are on the list for today. We have a new Searchlight signal that I'm going to show you and demonstrate. I'm going to give you a brief summary right now of the family of signal controllers. We actually have 5 signal controllers now. Can you believe it? We started in June and it's been just going great guns, and we've added some features and capabilities. One of the more recent capabilities that's kind of cool is linking a DCC controlled signal controller to a non-DCC signal controller. So you can have a mixed system. We were asked by several people to show how to connect a manual throw for a turnout to our signal controller, most notably the dwarf controller, which we'll show you. And we have a precision detector update, some redesign. I'll mention briefly the G-Scale, where we are with that, and a reminder to order from our website. A lot of folks watch the websites and call and say, where do I order? So the answer to that, and I'll repeat that later at the end of the video, is we only sell direct. We sell through our website, we don't take credit cards and that sort of thing on the phone. So everything is through the website to protect you and to protect us. We don't have any credit card information on our servers. We just keep everything clean. And we don't sell through dealers. We really felt that the level of support that we can provide directly is what we want to do. And also, no offense to the dealers, but then we would have to raise prices in order to give them a contribution. And we really try to keep prices down. And that's a fight for everything from milk to beer in the supermarket. So we're faced with the same problems with chip components and so forth. All right, so let's get started. A brief introduction. I'll just show you briefly the new search signal controller. This is the HO version, and it's using a single fiber. It's a little bit thicker and more flexible, and we have a signal controller dedicated to this. The next set of demonstrations, I'm going to zoom into the desk here so you can see the products, and we can talk about those next. We'll go through the series of videos and the topics, and then I'll wrap up at the end. Over the past 6 months, we've introduced 5 signal controllers. And so I want to take the opportunity today to go through and explain an overview, sort of quickly, what each of these does and sort of the genesis of it. So let's start with this version down here. This is the first version of the signal controller. This is for LEDs. So there are 4 terminals, a common and red, green, and yellow. It's very simple to use, and there's a detect line, a latching line, and we provide the power cord with it. So that's the first signal controller. All of the signal controllers have latching, and all of them now have a DCC decoder in them, so you can drive this off of DCC. If you don't have DCC, you can drive this off a simple switch. If you have no DCC and you have turnouts, there are ways to hook up our coil detector to that. Well, actually, that's for the dwarf controller. We'll get to that in a second. So that's the signal controller. They all come with a magnetic bracket. So it slides on very easily. They stay on, even if they're bounced around quite a bit. We've had people go to trade shows and said, no, they didn't come off. So that's the LED 3-light signal controller. So the next one up is the 3-light fiber controller, and it's very similar to this one, same functionality, single push button for configuring, and just you slide the fibers in. It comes with a little pin and put that in there. So that's the 3-light fiber version. So 3-light LED version, 3-light fiber version. We're tending to like fiber a lot because the light comes out the end point of the fiber. We make a little lens on the end of it and color it, and that works really well. They're easy to assemble, put down to the layout. And there's some other videos on the channel on more in detail of how to install that. The next one up actually is this one. I don't have the sticker on it. It's a 4-light output. And so the reason you would use a 4-light output is if you had a PRR, what we call Pennsylvania Railroad 7-light signal. Now we have this in both, we have this in fiber, we don't have this in LED. So the way this works is there's 3 positions, vertical, horizontal, and diagonal. And so those 1, 2, 3 positions are held. And then there's a center light. So the center light is separately controlled. And so we have a separate video on that, but just that's the 7-light output. And because most of these lights are warm white, we have a slightly different LED system to light the fibers in this controller. Okay, the next one up was, and this is really going gangbusters, is the dwarf controller. So here, I'll bring over a whole collection of them, but here's the dwarf. This is the O size, so it's pretty big. And in the case of the dwarf signal controller, there are a pair of outputs. So when you're operating this with a sensor or DCC, you can have 2 separate outputs, one for one turnout, one for another turnout, and the 2 signals on the dwarf will change from red to green and back. This also has something called interlocking. So if you have a step ladder of switches going through your yard, the signal controller will keep track of which position the turnouts are in such a way that if a train on a siding can't get out, in other words, the main line is closed, not thrown, all the lights in the yard, that, according to how you want to configure it, would show red regardless of the switch position because the train can't get out. So there's no clear path to exit. So that's what we call interlocking, and all of the dwarf signal controllers have that built in. All right, so the next member of the family here is the recent one, and we just talked about it a few minutes ago. There's a video coming up in a second, and that is the single fiber searchlight LED. And I don't have this plugged in right now, but in this case, the fiber just plugs right into the manifold, just like that. And we have red, green, and yellow coming out the light, and that's really cool. So there are the 5 signal controllers that we have introduced at Model Train Technology. Now to go with them are a whole series. Now this is just what we've done in the last 6 months. Here are all the block signals. Let me put this one back here. And they all have magnet bases except for the dwarfs, all right? So the dwarfs are too small really to use the magnet effectively, but we have searchlight, we have 7-light, we have 2 and 3-light for HO and N scale, and then we have and we also have O and S scale in all these configurations. Here's the S scale and HO, and now we have this is what we've been using for the N scale, and now we have a reduced size N scale that's a little bit more prototypical in size. If you order the N scale standard size, you can order more of those. If you're on the website in about a week, you'll be able to order the even smaller one. This is a little tricky, just trying to get the fibers and so forth to work, but that's the N scale dwarf signal. So quite a collection available to you. All right, so the last thing I want to show you, and this also relates to our signaling and signal controllers. Here's the, let me move this out of the way. Here's the sensor, the HO sensor, precision sensor. We use a laser type sensor. It's class A, it's not harmful at all, and it has a 1 millimeter precision, and it's not affected by ambient light. So your room can be perfectly dark, perfectly light. You don't have to adjust it at all. You can take it to trade shows. The sodium lights won't affect it, and it just works great. You can adjust the range for detecting the train so that one track in N scale is detected and the other track is not. Reflected IR, which we've been using for 25 years, is just temperamental, to say the least. So this sensor solves that. So we're pretty happy with it, with one exception. I thought it was pretty clever to add this micro dip switch, so you could just flip a switch and that would be all the configuration. The problem we've discovered is that it works fine, but if it's out in the layout and you have to pull it up and then you're reaching over and trying to adjust, push these switches, close them or open them, it's difficult. And sometimes the wire pops out and so forth. So what we did is we got rid of the dip switch, and now we have a push button. So you don't even have to look at the switch. You can just feel the push button and push it a certain number of times to switch between the scales, the timeout value, extending the time, and whether you want it in inverse mode. So pretty simple, just an addition there with a push button, and that's the progression, personal feedback and also from customers. There's the HO version, and then here's the N scale version with the same configuration, same pushback button switch. So we think that's a pretty good improvement. And so that's a quick wrap up and catch up on all of the block signaling, dwarf signaling, the sensors, and the signals themselves. So let's move on to the other subjects. So a couple of customers have seen our videos about the dwarf controller and wrote to me about connecting up the dwarf controller to one of these guys. This is from Caboose Industries. It's a manual throw, and this is HO. Actually, N and HO are the same size on the throw. But anyway, this is a mechanical movement here, and this would then slide the switch back and forth on the layout. So no DCC or any electrical connection whatsoever. And their question was, how do you connect it? Well, Caboose Industries makes one of these which has 3 contacts. You put a little brass connector in there, and this is a single pole double throw switch. So there's a center pole, and this is normally, this is closed, this is open, and this is open, this is closed. So for our connection, we anticipated mechanical switches. And so we're going to show you how to connect up this D-signal controller, dwarf controller. We're going to put a couple of our HO dwarfs. This is how it comes in pairs. We're going to put that on this little bench here, and we're going to fire it up. It's really simple. Off camera, I'm going to solder 2 wires. We don't need all 3, just need 2 of these. And I'll show you how this goes together. So the first thing I did was simply draw a line approximately where I'm going to put this switch. And I'm not going to connect up this to the switch. I don't have enough room here, but just to give you an idea, this just slides back and forth, and you can see this armature moves back and forth. So this is more about connecting this to the signal controller than it is about connecting to the switch. So all I did really simply is just drew a line with this little straight edge and then marked 3 sections there. I'm going to keep all 3 of these connected just for grins, and I'm going to drill a hole at each of the intersections of there. So it's not too big a project. Okay, and with any luck, this will fit inside those holes. What do you know? First time. All right. So that just sits firmly on the layout, and this goes back and forth. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to just solder. These have a little curve to them. I'm just going to solder 2 wires to each of these, and we're going to feed the wires into the hole and then put it back in. Here you can see I've soldered 2 wires to the end of these little connectors, and really it's just as simple as putting these into the hole. I've tinned the wire at the end here just to make it easy, and I'm just going to feed those wires right through the bottom of this. They'd come out the bottom of your layout, and this whole contraption would go. Oh, let me get it. I've got it backwards. Let me get this straightened out. There we go. So just push that in, and there are the 2 wires. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. What we're going to do, let's back out a little bit. We're going to use our power module. So the signal controller, this is a fiber 2-port 2-light system. We're going to use half of this. So the dwarf signal controller has 2 outputs when you're doing it in this turnout mode. So you can have 2 turnouts set up for this with 1 signal controller. And on the signal controller itself, this right-hand side is ground. The next one is the trigger for the right-hand side, and the left one is the trigger for this left-hand side. And we're just going to plug this in. We have a wire from our signal controller, and plug it in. The blue light goes on. The lights are on here. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. And so what we're going to do is take the ground wire and connect it to the ground terminal right here. So this is the first one here. So we're just going to unscrew this, insert the wire, sorry for my hand being in the way there. That's one. And then we're going to do the second one here. Let me see if I can do it without my hand being in the way. Kind of come across this way. And, oops, put it into the first terminal. See if I caught it. No, I missed it. That's what the challenge of doing this on camera is. There we go. Okay, so pretty simple. That's all it is. 2 wires from here and 2 wires from here. And we're going to flip the control, and you can see the light changed. Very simple. Okay, that is all there is to it. All right, so let's hook up one of the dwarf signals, and that's also equally simple. Take these out of the package. The package comes with the pins that are necessary to connect these two. And let's take this apart. Take this one out. And just take your time taking these apart so you don't bend the cable. They'll sort of spring apart. Okay. So let's see. All right. So here we go. So we have a bunch of fiber. The end fiber here is clear. There's the signal. And we're going to just push it through one of these holes over here. Pull it all the way through the layout. That's pretty much what you do on your own layout. And then we're going to take one of the pins here, and we're going to take the other block signal and feed it through this other open wire. So there are 4 cables, right? So 2 of them are red and 2 of them are green. And so to make this work with the turnout, we're going to mix the red and the green on the 2 dwarfs. And let's lower this down so you can get a better camera angle. So I just lowered the camera angle so it would be easier, and I'll lower it further once we're ready to turn on the dwarfs. What I want to do is, so from each dwarf signal, there are 2 fibers. I have them both in my hand. These are from one of these. And so we have these 2 core fibers. What that means is I can put 2 fibers into 1 core, and we're going to use 2 of them. So on the same, from the same controller, we're going to use 2 pins. Now, if I put this in let's put this back into the left position, okay? So I'm just going to put this fiber in here, and you can tell that this is red, okay? So that's the correct position for the second one. And so now, since it's off, we've got red going on that side, all right? So now, it's, like I said, it's just a matter of connecting these cables, the fibers. This one will be the green side, and so you can see that. All right, so that's for dwarf signal number 1. And we have 2 cables from the second dwarf signal, and here they are, okay? So when this one is green, we want this one to be red, but I don't know which one it is. So I've got 2 fibers, I've got a light on here, I'm gonna stick it in and see what color, and it's red, okay? So I want that to be in the pin that's lit up here. So I'm gonna take this pin out so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to insert the second fiber into that hole. So I have both fibers. Where's the camera? There we go. I have both fibers in there, and I'm going to put that into here. And I'm going to take this one out and put this fiber in here. Other than the switch, there's no electrical, there's no soldering to hook up the dwarf signal itself, all right? So there we go. We've got the dwarfs. I'll pull the cables out of the way slightly. All right. So, whoops, what have we got here? Oh, I've got it in the wrong hole. Pardon me. There we go. Okay, so one is green and one is red. We're using the first 2 sockets, and I push this back the other way, and the dwarfs signals change to the opposite. So if you had your turnout aligned with this, as you turn the mechanical switch, the dwarf lights change. So that's really all there is to it. And as I said, there's a second port here. So you could have 2 mechanical switches, 2 turnouts, each controlled separately by 1 dwarf signal controller. So that's the mechanical setup, pretty simple. And I hope you enjoyed that. Now let's take a closer look at the searchlight block signals. I have the N-scale one on the left-hand side and the HO one on the right-hand side, and just a single fiber on the left. I have it encased in fiber shrink tube, and that's sort of to protect the fiber, but also it helps with cable management because I can tape the shrink wrap to the layout, but still be able to slide the fiber in and out if I need to. All right, so that's that. And then here's the HO version. They have magnets on the bottom, so that helps with mounting it on the layout. All right, we're going to use our power module and the dedicated searchlight signal controller. It has 2 outputs, and we're going to just plug in the power here, and you will see it light up, and the default position is green. So in this case, as I mentioned in the newsletter, the colors are inside the signal controller. All the other signal controllers, the light coming out is white, and the lens on the end of the fiber gives it the color, whether that's red, yellow, green, or warm white. In this case, it comes from the signal controller. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this little platform here, and I already have mounted a magnet. This is the N-scale magnet. So pretty simple. There's a special fiber pin that comes with this. It's designed for this fiber. This fiber is a little bit thicker than normal, and I've just taken it out of the sleeve, and I will just feed it into the hole like that, and twist it around, and it just snaps into place. And then I'm going to feed the shrink tube back onto it. Not really necessary for this demo, but just to give you an idea how that works. Slides right on. And I'm going to use a little bit of tape here just to keep things still while I'm moving things around for the camera. I slide the pin onto the end of the fiber, and I put this into the hole, and voila, we have a Searchlight block signal. Really super simple. All right, so to trigger this, I'm going to use the testing method, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect a jumper wire, my hand in the way again, I'm going to connect a jumper wire from the ground terminal to the trigger. All right, so this is just a jumper wire, and I'm just going to trigger it, and now you see that the light changed red, and that looks pretty sharp, and it changes back to yellow, and then to green. So each of the brightnesses are adjustable. So if I want to adjust green, green is the first color, so I press the button once, and now it's in adjust mode, and I insert the screwdriver in, and you can see that I can brighten or dim the light, and when I'm ready, I save it. Okay? There are 3 different aspect modes or changes that the Searchlight can go through. It can be red and green, red and green only. It can be red, green, and yellow. It can be red, green, and flashing yellow. And then it could also be put into fade mode or immediate mode. So right now, it's in immediate mode. In fact, let me just change the timing back to quickly, and let's just pop that again so you can see it go back through its paces. And the way to change the aspect is just with the button. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And it flashes multiple times, tells you it's on. Missing the pin, there we go. So now you will see the color fade from each aspect to the next one as opposed to immediate. Okay, so 5 pushes is 2 aspect, 6 aspects is 3 aspects, and 7 aspects is flashing. So we'll try that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, confirming the 7 flashes, and I'm going to trigger it. And so it's going to be red, yellow, then flashing yellow, and then to green. It goes pretty quickly. Let me slow it down just a hair so you can see that again. Okay, just trigger it here. Now you noticed the light over here was also going in sync. So you can have 2 Searchlight signals running off the single signal controller. So they could be facing opposite directions, for example, but they will do the same thing. And if you want, you can just put the other pin in here and cover it up if you don't like the light coming out of that. All right, so very simple. That's the new product, which is the Searchlight signal controller. So let me take this apart and I'll show you the HO version. Here we go with the HO Searchlight signal, and it will go into a hole just through the layout. Notice it's a single fiber, and in this case, when you order from our store, you're going to get a signal controller and a matching signal. You can't buy them separately because they go together. And in that case, when you order the HO one, the manifold here is a little bit different. The holes are smaller, in fact, than the N scale, but that's so you don't even need a pin. You just push the fiber right into the signal controller and you're done. So no pins on that one, just because it's big enough and firm enough inside there. And so let's see if we can get this guy to stay still. And we're going to trigger this just like before. I hope if I touch the right thing, there we go. Oh, the pin bent. There we go. So we're going through the stages. There's red, yellow, flashing yellow, and then green. And as I said, you can buy a shrink tube to cover this up if you don't like the light underneath. It looks kind of cool. All of the signal controllers have a magnetic bracket that you can purchase or not. Really depends. You can double stick tape it or you can use the magnetic bracket. And there we go. So I'm going to tilt this up a little bit and tilt the camera slightly so you can really see the whole effect of the light there. And let me trigger it again. There we go. So pretty cool, very simple, easy to install, and it just looks great. Here's a demonstration of how DCC to non-DCC signal controllers can be linked. So I have this signal controller is connected to DCC, and I'm using the LED type today. N-scale signal, and so I'm going to just activate it, trigger it from DCC, and you can see that this signal controller is getting the signal. I just tripped it, and now this will scale back aspect yellow, and then back to green. All right. So the way this works is now automatically, now that this signal controller is in DCC mode, we do pick up the signal from the wire to connect a non-DCC running signal controller. This is just powered by our power module. So just plug the power module in there. Now, the first thing is, since this is running off of DCC and this one is running off of DC off of another power supply, they're not sharing a common supply. So in order to get the signaling to work properly, we connect the grounds together, terminal ground, which is this top terminal here, to the top terminal on this controller. So just a simple wire, and that links the grounds between these two. Now, what I have here is, let me back up a little bit. And what I have here is just a breadboard block, and I have a white wire going to the detect part of this one. So I want DCC to trigger this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the signal, the latch wire, so I've connected to the middle terminal. So the latch from the DCC one connects to the detect. So what happens is when this triggers, instead of the latch acting as latching, because in DCC there isn't a latching concept, the latch we use is an output. So it will trigger the input detect of this controller, and you'll see that. So I'm going to trigger just by DCC now, and you can see instantly it changed. Of course, you can change the aspects of that. And then I'm going to clear the DCC signal, which will start it on its timer. All right, so this one's timing down, and the timing is a little off between these two. You can adjust them to be a long time or a short time, but you can see that these two are now linked. Now, the customer application was also, this was connected to a fiber block signal that was controlling a block. This is at a siding. So what he wanted to also be able to do is use his sensor. So this is the sensor out of the electrical box, just sitting on a terminal here. I have it powered with the same power module as I have for here, and I have the signal wire. So what I'm going to do is connect the signal wire, and that's why I use this push button block. I can just plug these things in. So now the detector and the DCC signals are both connected to this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trip the sensor, and you can see that this signal detected the sensor, but nothing changed over here because this was only going to be activated by DCC. I can now trigger it by DCC, okay, and you see the sensor timed out, but as long as DCC is on, this will stay in the red position. I'm going to clear it now, and it's going to go through the wind down to green. So we'll just go through and watch that. Okay, so whatever on the siding is green, but let's say a train comes along and hits the sensor again, this signal is going to turn to red and then go through its own sequence. So you can have multiple inputs working. You could have multiple, in fact, this is an important point for all our signaling system. Multiple precision detector signals can be connected together to create longer or multiple sensor points for the same train, and they can be fed into a single controller. So that's pretty clever. That's the DCC to non-DCC linking. That's a new feature, and it will be in all the signal controllers except the... Well, thank you for watching the Model Train Technology January edition of the newsletter, January 2022. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that it was useful. And we'd love to get feedback either in the comments section on the YouTube channel, which is really easy, just hit comments. Also subscribe. What happens when you subscribe? So I was just watching another year-long video. Some of you might recognize it, where every single day they said subscribe. And the question is, why should I subscribe to the video channel? Well, the way it works is YouTube will let you know automatically through your email or through an icon on your app if you have YouTube loaded up. So there are two different ways that there's a new video from the channel that you subscribe. So if you subscribe to Model Train Technology, when we post new videos, you'll be automatically notified, and then you just click the link and you go there straight away. So it's a kind of convenience thing. It doesn't, over time, it helps our ranking in YouTube in terms of getting more people to be aware of it. But it's a slow process, so there's not any financial gain other than just more people knowing about it and being able to get to the videos. So those sort of algorithms kick in. So that's another way. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if you're interested in any of our products, go to the website. It's modeltraintechnology.com. You can Google any version of that, Model Train Lighting and Animation, and we show up as the first search result in Google. And then you just link and go to the store, and it's one of the links across the top. If you have any questions, our email is support@modeltraintechnology.com, or you can just email me directly, jim@modeltraintechnology.com. Our phone number is 407-242-5436. And we'd love to hear from you. So thank you very much. And we will be posting 1 or 2 videos later in the month of January. We also plan a survey. I've talked about that before. It's just taking a long time to put together. Time is the scarcest resources, as you all know. And so anyway, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you later.